Hello, everyone, and welcome to day 3 of the Island Finance Forum 2023. Thank you so much for joining us at this session, which is the second to last of the Island Finance Forum. My name is Cristian Sakino. I am the Chief of Staff and Technology Lead here at Island Innovation. I am based on Margarita Island off the coast of Venezuela in the Caribbean region. I am very happy to be presenting this session, which is titled Digital Innovation and Fintech for Climate Action. Before we begin, you should see a poll appear on your screen right now. Please let us know where you're connecting from, your sector, and your industry. Tackling climate change is not a one-size-fits-all solution. It requires determination, innovation, and creativity across all sectors of the economy to have a comprehensive impact. As a result, we have seen an explosion in sustainable projects developed through digital innovation and fintech. These companies and entrepreneurs are taking the road less traveled and forging a new path towards climate action, and you can find out how in this session. I invite you to use the chat function to introduce yourself and where you're joining from. Please make any comments during the session, but make sure that if you have a question for any of the panelists, please use the Q&A box in the bottom left of your Zoom window. All right, so I see a lot of participation in the poll. Let's see the results. We have the majority of people connecting from the Caribbean, North America, and Europe, closely followed. Also people from South and Central America. We have people from the Asia Pacific region and Africa as well. On the sector side, the majority of you are from the private sector, and we have also people from NGOs and other type of sectors. In the industries, we have a mix, which is about environmental services, ocean conservation, management consulting, finance, waste and circular economy, and others. Thank you for your participation. I would like to introduce you to our moderator today, Patricia Fraile Romero from Archipelago Next. Thank you so much for joining us, Patricia.
Thank you.
And thank you for being a part of this year's Island Finance Forum. And over to you.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Digital Innovation and Fintech for Climate Action panel in the Island Finance Forum 2023. Where I am is evening, but I guess it's different depending on where you're connecting from. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. My name is Patricia Fraile, and I come from a beautiful Spanish island region as well, the Canary Islands, specifically from Gran Canaria. I work for a venture capital fund, Archipelago Next, originally also from the islands. And it invests in digital startups from all around Spain, some of them specializing in fintech and ESG. Thank you very much, Christian, for letting me be an active part on this wonderful event. I have been following some of the panels, and it's been enlightening to know what other island regions and states are currently doing to address the challenges we are all facing due to climate and social changes. We have a very interesting panel today and are incredibly lucky to be able to share it with the panelists participating in it because of who they are and what they are achieving or they have achieved. Each of them in the area of expertise in fintech towards climate action. I feel really humble. First of all, from Barbados, we will have Ronnie Samuel from Fintech Consult, an international consulting firm that supports fintech companies to raise capital and expand globally. He's also one of the Island Innovation Ambassadors. Secondly, from the Netherlands, we will have Luc Weber, founder and CEO of Collectivo, a platform but also a framework and an ecosystem that enables local communities to create and manage their own regenerative economy to fuel prosperity. Then from Panama, we will have Jessica Jacob, CEO of Sudeco and Partners, a global consultancy firm specialized in climate finance. And last but not least, from Trinidad and Tobago, we will hear Adrian Dawem, founder and chairman of the True Circular Economy Solution Group, and also an Island Innovation Ambassador. Welcome to you all, and thank you very much for being here with us today. So we will begin with Ronnie Samuel. He is partner of Fintech Consult, an international team of fintech founders, experts, and investors who have excellent knowledge on the respective local ecosystems. They support fintech companies in raising capital and expanding globally, and have specialized in European, Asian, and African markets. They help find strategic investors and support marketing and sales initiatives. He's also co-founder of RHS Software Global Enterprises, a platform that uses technological advancements to enable sustainable development in emerging markets. It's a smart ecosystem helping to transform the world with sustainable solutions for every facet of life. He's also involved as a consultant board advisor to a stealth mode fintech company whose goal is to assist with financial inclusion within emerging and indigenous societies through the provision of solutions such as interoperable digital cash systems. He serves as an elected vice president of the Estonian e-Resident International Chamber Association, is an advisory board member of Stealth Mode Caribbean Fintech Company, and a member within the Estonian e-Residence Venture Capital Fund. He has an extensive career path, collaborating with many more initiatives. Ronnie is also an ambassador to Island Innovation. Welcome, Ronnie. The floor is all yours.
Thank you so very much, Patricia, and the rest of the team. That was very humbling. As you mentioned, we have a group of international founders, fintech, management personnel, and technology specialists. And part of what we aim to do within the financial technology realm is enable startups, fintech startups, expand globally and scale to attempt to reach their full potential. One of the interesting things that we have recognized is that a lot of the fintech startups, and even those who are already on their way to their full potential, have not necessarily embarked on a lot of the tools available, data analytics, blockchain, AI tools available for ensuring that they improve inclusivity and sustainability. So that's one of the things that we tend to project to the entities whom we consult with and whom we have as clients. And some of these financial institutions, we encourage them to do very, very small but significant functions, such as encouraging their own clientele to spend more sustainably. One of the other things that we also do is we try to remove them from the narrative that the usual suspects throw at them, to embrace inclusion as not just a matter of financial inclusion, which means that their data facility provisioning should be their own. It should be sustainable from the standpoint of being powered by renewable energy. And that in itself will encourage digital currencies to become a part of their framework. It will encourage inclusion from the standpoint of a technological aspect of inclusion. So our innovative and sustainable products tend to have a very broad range of what we term to be inclusive and sustainable. And to that end, we help a lot of entities, not only within their local environment to expand, but also to capture industries within that environment that may have otherwise been overlooked. For instance, in the artisanal mining sector, that is often a sector that is terribly overlooked, but that is also a sector from which financial inclusion and sustainable products can have significant benefit, not just to the individuals within that sector, but also to the wider community as a whole and to the economic structure of the regulatory framework within which they function. That's in a nutshell what we do through the operations of Fintech Consult and RH Global Enterprises. With that, I will turn back over to you, Patricia.
Thank you very much, Ronnie. Well, just spot on time. Thank you very much. We will be able to be well to follow the agenda. Okay, next to talk will be Luke Weber. Luke is the founder and CEO of Colectivo Labs, an emerging tech startup out of Curaçao that is developing tools for communities worldwide to realize the value of natural capital to create impact economies. He's a big advocate of regenerative finance. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to pronounce it correctly. An emerging niche that aims to develop financial tools that regenerate the earth and society. I'm sure he will tell us more about this fascinating initiative. Prior to starting Colectivo, Luke operated a digital asset fund out of the Amsterdam Stock Exchange and worked at the Next Web. Welcome, Luke. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Patricia. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. As you mentioned, I was born and raised in Curaçao in the Caribbean, but I feel a little bit at home with this group here today because we're all islanders and we share very comparable backgrounds. Today, I want to share a quick story about how digital innovation and fintech solutions can enable climate action in small island development states, and even invite you to think beyond that, about regenerating small island development states, a term that I'll dive into in a bit later. I only have about 5-6 minutes, so let's jump into it right away. Let's start from a problem statement that is a reality for a lot of developing small island development states. The fact that nature development and nature maintenance and nature stewardship is greatly limited by some barriers that are outside of our control. One of them is the ecological fragility and economic vulnerability of being a small island state. I think especially during the COVID pandemic, in our case, it became very clear that our economies and our financial systems are not self-sufficient, but we're also more prone to environmental disasters. Being in the Caribbean ourselves, but also other small island development states are often affected more by climate change. But simultaneously, we also lack the ability to decide if you want to revert climate change or not, because it's outside of our scope. In addition to that, we have an underdeveloped financial system. We don't have the same access to technology and capital like other regions, Europe, North America, etc. And as a result, we have this large dependency of foreign capital to preserve and realize the value of nature. So we often find ourselves under-resourced. But what if the solution, the resource, is right in front of us? I want to introduce you to an upcoming asset class, an asset class that is finally being recognized more and more. And that's the asset class of natural capital. Natural capital prescribes all the natural resources in the world, from rainforests to mangroves to reefs, and the value they produce for us humans, for the economy, which they prescribe in a term called ecosystem services. This market is estimated to be $33 trillion every year. Let it sink in. The value that nature produces for people is estimated at $33 trillion a year. That's 20 times larger than the crude oil market, a market that has influenced a lot of our countries. But over the past centuries, this market wasn't recognized, but we're seeing the first signs of it, driven by international policy, but also by cultural movements. We're seeing the recognition of this natural capital value. One of the best forms of it is by the creation of carbon credits, which are essentially recognizing the value of storing carbon in Earth or limiting the amount of carbon that is put in the atmosphere. This is a market that is being standardized and is growing quick. 2019 it was $270 billion a year. Currently we're looking at about $800 billion a year. That's immense. It's a big market, but it's only touching the tip of the iceberg because we're seeing innovations both horizontally but also vertically. We're seeing new types of ecological credits, biodiversity credits, marine ecosystem credits. We see them emerging, and simultaneously we see more and more policy and demand for maintenance of nature. So a big opportunity, but why haven't we been able to tap into it? That question becomes even more serious if you look at this map. It's a little bit small in the presentation, I assume, but essentially what it is a map that showcases the value of natural capital per hectare. And the more red or orange an area is on this map, the more valuable the natural capital is estimated in that region. And as you can see, a lot of small island development states, the Caribbean, Southeast Asia, Canary Islands, a lot of coastal areas are perceived to have the highest value of natural capital. And this is a big, big opportunity. The reason why we haven't been able to tap into this opportunity is by infrastructural problems. And that really relates to the fintech and digital innovation we're going to discuss in the panel in a bit. One of them is structural market inequalities. As I mentioned, poorer areas are hit harder by climate change, but lack the resources and capacity to take big action. A second is the high barriers to entry. Entering the carbon credit market or environmental credit market isn't easy. You need a big amount of money, you need a big amount of expertise, and something that traditionally we don't have regionally. And then also the limited scope. Ecological credits are a game of size. The bigger a project, the more money you can make. And therefore, our relatively small islands need to find ways to better, to become even more efficient with the area mass that we have. And one way of doing it is recognizing the impact that is made on a holistic system and not just carbon credits, purely looking at only the carbon, because just solving carbon will not save Earth, will not resurrect climate change. It might slow it down, but there's other crises, biodiversity collapse, but also on a social level that also need to be tackled. And this is where emerging technology is growing quickly and where it might be able to democratize this natural capital market, opening up opportunities for us. So global fintech is making everything more accessible and transparent. It's allowing for near instant and global settlement, and it allows for unprecedented potential for digitizing assets, whether it's natural capital or any other form of assets. At the same time, innovations in digital MRV, which stands for measure, report, and verify, which is the way that ecological credits are being issued. You need to validate that what you're doing is truly happening. Innovations in the digital MRV realm are making it much cheaper and easier to do this MRV, bringing down the cost of creating ecological credits while also making their quality and tradability much better. So this is an environment that's really opening up. And it's on top of this innovation, the realization of natural capital, that Collectivo is building a toolkit that allows communities, especially small island development states, to think about creating what we call a regenerative economy, an economy that goes beyond limiting the negative influence we have on Earth, but start seeing Earth not as a liability, but as an asset. So building on top of Earth, moving with nature, and creating systems that create both value for nature as value for people. In that regard, we are working on a program in Curacao. We've been underground there for over 3 years. If you want to learn more about that, you can head over to collectivo.cw/impact report. And over there, you can read about everything we've accomplished over the past year and prior to that. I'm really looking forward to discussing the panel. Patricia, I see you're on. I'm looking forward to questions from the audience. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Luke. Really interesting initiative that you have. I hope we can talk a bit more about it later on in the panel. Okay, next we'll have Jessica Jacob. Jessica is an economist from the Sorbonne University in Paris, holds a master's degree in economics and international policy from the Universities of Lausanne and Geneva, and recently completed an executive master in digital business at ESADE in Spain. Currently, she is the CEO of Sureco & Partners, a consultancy firm promoting local and regional talent specialized in ESG and access to climate finance. Previously, Jessica worked for more than 6 years at the Green Climate Fund, as an accreditation specialist and then as a regional manager for Latin America and Caribbean. Since she left the GCF, she has been a climate finance consultant for multiple international entities, such as UNEP, UNESCO, FAO, and World Bank, among others. Previously, she was the Director of Social and Environmental Responsibility at, I hope I say it correctly, Fintech Infrastructure Development Bank. She was the President of the Green Protocol in Colombia, President of the Latin American Group of UNEP FI, and Vice President of the Environmental and Climate Change Committee of the Latin American Association of Development Financial Institutions. Wow, welcome Jessica, the floor is all yours.
Thank you very much, Patricia. And I'm going to speak quite quickly because we don't have much time. So it's a pleasure to be part of this forum and this panel. As you already mentioned, a little bit of my background, I think that the important to highlight from my experience, it's coming from the financial world, from developing countries, but working for more than six years in the biggest climate fund worldwide. So one of the subjects of this panel and in the description is that tackling climate change is not one size fits all solution, and it requires determination. So after being in this huge fund and helping all the Caribbean and Latin American countries to access to the fund, develop their projects and programs, I realized that the majority of the resources are going to international institutions and then to international consultants. So I realized the importance of attracting the talent from our countries and our regions to have solutions that are adapted to their needs and their context. That's why I created Sureco & Partners, that is a consultancy firm specialized on ESG, so mainly on sustainability, but focusing on climate finance and digital solutions. One of our aims is to, and mission is to identify talent. So I have a lot of contacts now from my past and experience and network, but there's a huge talent of youth and senior consultants around the Latin American Caribbean region, but overall in all of our developing countries that we need to attract and make them to work together for this cause of climate change. So our vision is to become the reference partner as a consultancy firm that really is going to give the results that are expected in our countries with people from our countries and our regions that can really provide the solutions that are adapted to our needs. So very quickly, you can see that this idea of Sureco & Partner has attracted multiple talents from different countries around our region. We have even as part of our board, a former Minister of Environment of Dominican Republic. We have the former General Secretary of the Latin American Banks Association. We have the former Deputy Executive Director of the GCF. But as I mentioned, it's really important to attract this youth talent. So we are already in 2 years in our 5th round of internships. Now we have 11 interns with us. Several of them are watching this forum. And you can see that they come from different backgrounds, from different countries. And what we do is weekly provide them with trainings to exposure to true projects with our multiple clients and partners. This is part of our advisors. So you can see that they come from around the world. We have directors on environmental funds. We have partners and advisors that come from the digital and fintech, like, for example, John Sung from South Korea. And just in 2 years, with this vision of really providing good results aligned to the reality of our countries and our region, you can see that we have captured, we have already signed contracts with the World Bank, with development banks like the Caribbean Development Bank, with financial institutions, with multiple entities of the United Nations, among others. And we have reached the big majority of our countries in the LAC region. You can see that we're providing support in the Caribbean, in Central America and South America, but also to clients in North America that are supporting with their products or services in our region. So let's speak about our partnerships. We really believe in Sureco, and that's why it's called Sureco & Partners, that to do this explosion of sustainable projects, we have to share knowledge, work together, into different projects and programs. So that's why we have partners from digital innovation and fintech track record, other consultancy firms that we could see, it could be potential partners, and even institutions such as universities, among others. So let me quickly go through some examples of digital innovation. We add innovation and creativity across all sectors of the economy to have a comprehensive impact. So in Sureco, for example, we develop a tool for governments to identify which are the best strategic projects that are feasible and that have ownership and that have effectiveness. And this regardless of the sector they come from. You know that for seeds, for example, it's very difficult to access to international climate funds. So these tools, in a very efficient manner, with a very inclusiveness approach, helps them to prioritize this project and see which of those are more realistic to develop and present to these international climate funds. We partner as well, for example, with ARMA, that is revolutionizing the carbon offset industry with AI solutions related to the carbon markets, identifying projects, helping them with analytics, among others. Another partner is one of the first cryptocurrencies focusing on climate change, that is called Climate Coin. And Climate Coin, each Climate Coin is based on a carbon credit. So this is focusing and helping the projects all around the world on mitigation, but as well on adaptation. We supported Climate Coin to sign this MOU at the COP in Sharm el-Sheikh, where we are promoting in the Caribbean with the Caribbean Community Climate Change Center and the Blockchain Climate Institute to incubate the blockchain solutions and options of cryptocurrencies that will help these countries. And this MOU includes, of course, capacity building among the Caribbean region on technologies, on blockchain, on cryptocurrencies, among others. And last but not least, another of our partners is Climate Trade, that has a marketplace to offset emissions from different industries. For example, on hotels, to give the opportunity to the people that are staying to offset their emissions, to banks to offset their transactions, and to, for example, others that are airplanes to offset their flights. So with that, I finish, Patricia. Thank you very much. And if you have any questions, I'm open for that, and you can see our contacts here. Thank you again.
Thank you very much, Jessica. I've seen a few Spanish big companies there, which I'm really happy and proud, to see them being part of these wonderful projects. Thank you. Well, and finally, last but not least, as I said before, we will hear Adrian Dawen, a family man with 2 successful children. He told me before, and he can be very proud of them. He brings with him a wealth of experience at the executive level, having served as a professional consultant and diplomat for the Trinidad and Tobago government in the oil and gas industry for over 30 years. In this role, he has dealt extensively with several heads of government around the world, organizations such as CARICOM in the Caribbean, European Union nations, as well as Latin American states. He's the founder, chairman, and CEO of several international companies in renewable energy, gold and precious gem mining, recycling, large energy inflatable structures, water production, and high-tech agricultural technologies. In Trinidad and Tobago, he is the chairman and CEO of AA Electric Automobiles and Solar Equipment Company that provides fully electric vehicles, solar equipment, and sustainable homes built from recycled materials. He's the consultant for the Net Zero Group of UAE, which is involved with establishing blue and green hydrogen production facilities in the Caribbean, Central and South America. He's the director of the MECC Cornerstone out of Canada, a management consultant company for high-tech firms, and is also on the advisory board of Carbon Zero Institute of Trinidad and Tobago. Well, he's also an ambassador for the Virtual Island Innovation Summit, as I told you before, and he feels that his most important contribution to society are, among others, the True Circular Economy Solution Group, a group of companies which deals with establishing a circular economy, serving on the board and being a member of the Rotary Club of Port of Spain. for the last 25 years and a covenant member of the Living Water Community and UN representative for refugees in Trinidad and Tobago, as well as Barbados. Wow. Welcome, Adrian. Adrian, the floor is all yours.
Thank you. I hope you are hearing me.
Yeah, we can hear you. No, not now.
Yes. Are you hearing me now?
Yes.
Lovely,
Perfectly.
lovely. So just to get to the point very quickly, we are a group of 23 companies formed solely for the purpose of sustainability and renewable energy. In every aspect of our business, we are 100% involved with complete sustainability, from waste to energy technologies, and very much high tech, in the sense that we have AI technologies which are involved with several of our processes involving water production, food production, and even my last colleague even mentioned something that we are also recently going to join, which is the new coin for current and power system. So even in the cryptocurrency industry, we have found ourselves very much involved. We believe that the approach to sustainability must not be looked at as a single line approach. It must be attended to as a multiple prong entity. And we feel that it is, indeed the direction that we all have to go in the future. So while we are, very established in larger countries, in the smaller Caribbean islands, where we are also home-based to some extent, we are very much involved with as much of the new technology groups that are involved with different levels of renewable and sustainable energy. We have poured in a lot of resources and financial inputs with my own history in the banking sector in this particular company, and we are growing stronger by the day. We feel that the world needs this new complete solution to deal with both agriculture, the valuable resource of water, the continuing problem of waste and waste management. And we have invested several very well established companies that you may know who are part of our group already around the world. So we feel that it is very important. And again, thank you, Patricia, for allowing this opportunity for us to share this detailed explanation, and also for Island Innovation, this being my third year as an ambassador, very happy to be sharing the stage with so many wonderful people, Jessica, Luke, and Ronnie, my Bajan colleague. So thank you very much again, and it's short and sweet, and back to you, Patricia.
Thank you very much, Adrian. I see that you are being very short with your explanations. I thank you very much. So yeah, now we can go to the questions. If you want to join me, four of you now, so we can address the Q&A, the questions from the audience. Jessica, Adrian, Ronnie? Welcome back. Okay, I see that we have a few questions from the audience. Well, the first one I can read here is not a question, but I don't know how to say, but well, it's from Bwambale Joachim, an island innovation ambassador from Uganda in East Africa region. And they are looking for founders and partners who can help their organization to carry out e-waste management projects in Uganda. So maybe one of you can help Buan Vale Joachim in this respect. I don't know if you want to add something to that. Atian or Ronnie, maybe?
You know, it all depends on what his particular issue is, but certainly in our entire group of companies, there is a solution that we found for every country, every organization that we worked for throughout the last 5 years. So certainly he can get in contact with us. We'd be happy to help either the country level or the company level, depending on where he needs assistance.
Yeah, thank you very much. Jessica, I think you've been very appealing with when talking about Sudeco, because someone is here asking how they can become a collaborator of Sudeco. So if you
Thank you very much, Patricia. There's one of our team members that is answering to that question. So we're always looking for talent and even partners, companies that would like to articulate with us. No, our main focus is accessing to climate finance. We have a huge expertise on projects with the GCF, with the GEF, the Adaptation Fund, among others. So please don't hesitate to write to hr@sudecoandpartners.com. It's going to be in the chat. So please contact us as companies or individuals, and we will seek to find opportunities in very good and interesting climate projects around our region. And we're thinking to expand because we are receiving a lot of requests from Africa and the Pacific. So something that if you're from other regions, don't hesitate to share as well with us. And we will seek and look forward for other countries and supporting them. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. There is also a question here that I think is raised some interest. Is what could one of the barriers be government control with both infrastructure and fintech? The knowledge of fintech is also slowly growing within the Dutch Caribbean.
I think I'm best positioned to jump on that. I generally think that infrastructure control and barriers, which are multinational, which aren't just based in one country, pose bigger limiting factors. From my personal experience, a lot of the financial infrastructure that we are operating from in the Dutch Caribbean or wider Caribbean is greatly affected by correspondent banking and other forms of what I would call barriers in the larger financial system. I do think that the role of the government should be in, and maybe this is somewhat of a limiting factor, is being more clear and direct for setting up guidelines for new infrastructure. I'm quite interested, but also surprised to hear the word cryptocurrency so many times. This is the space that I grew up in. I've been in the space for 7 years, but I've also learned to not talk about it too much because traditionally it was perceived as something scary or something that the government might have a pushback on. And I feel that from my perspective, most projects and companies want to comply, want to follow rules, want to do it proper. But for that, you need proper guidance and proper guidelines. And one example, for example, and this is even in the States right now, there's a big debate around what's the right way to approach that. But a good thing is, for example, the Dutch Caribbean, that the Central Bank of Curaçao is working on a virtual assets license framework so that we can do that in a regulated environment. To ultimately lead to more impact, but also sufficient protection for the end user.
Anyone else would like to add something to that? We have more questions, so don't worry. Okay, here is a broad question, and I think all of you can add something to it. Is what's climate finance all in all? So a big question, okay, from Ethiopia.
Happy to take it. So well, it's a broad, but it's referring to climate resources, and investments that could be dedicated to addressing climate change, so either mitigation or adaptation. So it's those resources and investments that can come from the public or private sector, including international funds, to trickle climate change through mainly projects, and that could be in different financial instruments such as grants, loans, equities, guarantees, among others.
Anyone else would like to add something?
I think that a lot of the government's policies, as far as financing is concerned, supporting both private sector and joint venture projects, as Jessica just mentioned, is very important, because without proper government policies, it is difficult to access this funding, even from established institutions, representing the European Investment Bank here in Trinidad. I can say that, the policies of different governments throughout the Caribbean and other countries are really causing maybe a lot of delays in climate change financing. And I'm sure Ronnie has his own little bit to add on to that as far as policies and procedures. While we all look at the head organizations for guidance, the United Nations and etc., there are several policies of local governments. And when I say local, I mean within the structure of a governing country by that government, to not really focus on the needs under the sustainability goals set by the United Nations, and that has become the biggest stumbling block. I'm sure Jessica will also agree on that.
Interesting. Do you think maybe using this new, as Luke say, the cryptocurrencies or the tokenization could be a solution for these delays that come, from these big European bank or whatever other international financial institutions?
It all depends on how serious you want to be about inclusion and empowerment. And that's where the bottom line lies, to be quite honest. And of course, not how serious you want to be only, but also how creative you are capable of being. In these more modern dispensations, the issue is not necessarily about whether or not the technology exists, but whether or not the regulatory framework has the creative will and capacity for inclusion and empowerment. And that's the long and short of that whole item agenda.
As usual. Okay, another question. So many standards and methods exist to calculate environmental impact. How can there be a quality or global unit of account? What technical standard or impact calculation method is used by the panel members? Any one of you?
I imagine the questions go also related to carbon markets, no? Because we're speaking about standards. Hope I'm getting it well. So we know the business as usual players such as Verra, Gold Standards, and others. I honestly and personally and professionally think they are the bottleneck to open to more opportunities on the carbon markets. And Luke, agree with me. So that's why we're supporting multiple countries like in Suriname, in Costa Rica, in Honduras, Colombia, and others to find methodologies to accredit local entities, no? And even then regional ones. They're very good now certifiers and verifiers. For example, in Colombia, that's one of the most advanced countries in our region on carbon taxes, carbon markets, and others, no? So this MOU that I mentioned, for example, with Climate Coin and the 5 Cs, it's targeting, hopefully in the middle term, that kind of building capacities to help the Caribbean to identify and open to other entities to be able to certify them. So I am also a kind of advisor to the new executive secretary of the UNFCCC, Simon Steele. And that was one of my clear advices to UNFCCC. You have to find a way, like at the age, no, of in the past, where UNFCCC was the one that was recognizing the different standards and opening the market. So hopefully one day we could find an international standard that could accredit others, or at least we can at a national level to find other ways and methodologies and actors to get involved in these carbon markets and then in the crypto climate currencies, etc., etc. So there's a huge bottleneck on that question, and we're working on it, and hopefully much more will collaborate on that matter and issue.
Thank you very much, Jessica. Well, we have another question here.
Patricia,
Yes,
can I
yes,
just say
of
something
course.
on that
Yes,
particular topic?
sorry, go on.
Yes, sure. You know, what I found, very much like Jessica, there has been so many bottlenecks because the Brazilians come up with their own ideas. You have people like Edge and Share and all the different other standards that Caribbean people are tackling and holding on to. And then the European side of things, they throw another set of standards at you, saying, well, you know, it's got to meet this and that, and that's where we're all stuck because you know, we're financing projects based on all of these different levels of understanding that we're going in the right direction. And again, I go back to the point I've been making all the time, that this cannot be a single line approach. It has to be a multi-pronged approach that everybody can agree. You know, we're using these 8 standards, and these standards are measurable enough that we can get results, and we know that it's not whitewashing. That word has not been used just yet, but it is part of this whole so-called certification and measuring process. Many companies are using excuses by placing reports in their financials saying, you know, we've met this standard and we've met that standard, and it's a lot of whitewashing because they're not actually doing what they are saying they're doing. So I think that the multiple layer approach from established companies and getting the governments to agree that these are the few standards we want to look at, even if all aren't observed, at least these are. And once we can move forward from there, we can see some positive direction moving forward into sustainability, and all the financing is available. Back to you, Patricia.
Thank you very much, Adrian. Okay, I'll continue with the questions from the audience. Is the panelist concerned where loans and projects have been implemented, but the repayment is so high that some countries are now not able to pay, and the country that provided them are able to take some control or ownership of those countries? Is it an issue? I mean, some countries.
I would say that there's a lot of that going on. I won't call names. I see Jessica shaking her head because I know she's agreeing with me here. You know, we have to be very careful how we want to sell our patriotic rights. And a number of countries, unfortunately, have found themselves into situations not only because of government, but because of old policies that have not changed. And that's, you know, part of what Ronnie was saying also, that we've got to change how we're doing business. And if we don't do it, countries are going to lose parts of their islands and parts of their countries, as is taking place currently with a few of the larger G5 members. I'll just go so far as to say that. Just to say also that we've got to be a little more serious about tackling this problem in a strategic alliance format. We've got to stop figuring, I have the solution, I know everything. We've got to do like the great Michael Jackson and start thinking about we and us. We have to now understand that the world is going in a terrible direction. We have to address these problems. We have to be able to solve these problems together Otherwise, our own countries are going to suffer directly from this tragic situation that's already taking place. So back to you, Patricia.
Yeah, thank you very much, Adriana. Someone else wants to add something to this? I think we had few names.
Well, maybe just a point on it. I cannot see again the question. It was a little bit difficult to understand, but it's something that I think it's very complicated for developing countries, and that's not only in the LAC region, but worldwide. And it's how the countries are using the resources that are coming from multilateral development banks. And generally they come through loans, even if they have a part of technical assistance and some grants behind. And they take these loans not to do a lot of politics, not to earn votes, etc., saying we just attracted $100 million from, and the people think that it's free money. No, but you have to pay it back. So they have to think the government's a little bit more responsible on how they're going to spend that money. If they're going to be truly able to pay that resources back, no, because it's not just as grants. Which institutions are able to manage those loans? Generally, they're going to be channeled through developing banks, and they're public institutions that sometimes not even have the policies and procedure in place to well manage those resources. So I have seen thousands of cases in developing countries, mainly on this kind of loans that are very poorly managed, and that the countries and the institutions are unable to pay.
Yeah, that's a big problem, honestly. Okay, another question by Gisela. Jessica, thank you for the presentation. How forthcoming do you find governments in the regions today in terms of actual environmental policy?
Okay, this is a difficult one. But my first reaction or word that comes to my head is disorganized. There are so many policies on environmental climate that are being developed by countries, and we know that it's not the fact of doing a policy. I see a lot of great policies, and there's not even a regulation behind it. There's not an applicability of the policy. No, so you confuse private sector, no, and the actors with these policies, and then the governments are not even able to put them into implementation. No, so there are thousands of policies related to these subjects. Unfortunately, they're not well organized. And there are countries that are moving, of course, faster than others and a little bit more straightforward. I could mention Colombia, Chile, Mexico. I think that in the Caribbean, at least Barbados has an amazing prime minister. And there are other countries, Jamaica, one of our board advisors is who I called my Caribbean mom, and she was in the government and making sure Antigua and Barbuda as well. And honestly, I don't know why, but generally the countries that I have seen that progress the best on policies and governments is because they had women in power. So I recommend all the governments to seek for gender balance to have more appropriate climate and environmental policies and laws.
Very good point, Jessica. I really support that. Okay, I had a question for Luke. You mentioned the word regenerative. Well, I don't know if I can pronounce it correctly in the context of finance. Can you give some examples of generative finance use cases?
Yeah, definitely. So the term regenerative, it's a concept that's luckily becoming more apparent. It's a term that aims to go beyond sustainability, where in sustainability, you're essentially trying to limit the negative influence and maintaining a current ratio. With regeneration, you're trying to improve a system and the capacity of a system. So in the context of an economy, you can think of it of, let's say, regenerative tourism would be a type of tourism where you're not trying to keep the well-being of the community or the prices as they are, but you're actually trying to set it up in a way that reduces prices or makes things more accessible to the locals, or actually improves the ecology around a given area. So it's really shifting our minds from, oh, we need to protect what we have, and say, hey, no, we don't need to protect what we have. We can do way better than this with the technology and understanding that we have today. Maybe a funny quote to add it with is, if you ask somebody how their relationship is going, and they say, it's sustainable, that's not really a good sign. You're like, you shouldn't be sustaining your relationship. So it's really letting go of this word sustainable. Let's go way beyond that So really thinking of business models that don't just keep the economy as is, but help it grow and also create seeds for new innovations.
We're not hearing you, Patricia.
Sorry, I don't know if we have much time. Ronnie, I would like you to add a little bit more about what you're doing. I think it's very interesting how you work with companies, startups, and fintech, making them be more aware of becoming more sustainable, you know, in the way they work and things like that. But I wanted to ask you, as you deal with a lot of companies, startups, and fintech, do they really have solutions orientated to this, what we have been talking about, you know, finance for climate sustainability or change for climate, you know, for this, what we have been talking about?
Not sufficiently enough is the short answer that I would give. More can be done, but more tends to involve additional resources. Some of the resources are not always financial, some are technical. And this is one of the reasons why, with our advice and with our clientele, we tend to steer them away from what we would commonly call the usual suspects, because, and I will phrase it in such a way that may give some clarity to the last question, or the second to last question, where we have to determine what problems need to be solved and how do we go about solving those problems within the framework of the local community, within the framework of the available human resources, as opposed to solving them within the framework of what is written on a piece of paper by the usual suspects. And once we start to rearrange the way that we function from an innovative and creative standpoint, we will find that inclusivity and sustainability is not such a far-fetched term. And that would be my response to startups and others within the sector, particularly in emerging markets and indigenous societies.
Very good. Okay, I think our time is almost up. I would like to make a recap of what we've been talking about, this interesting and wonderful and fascinating panel. We have talked about having an holistic approach to the problem, as Adrian has been emphasizing all the time. Also, we have been talking about policies that governments have that sometimes are not translated into real regulations and rules that really help companies and societies to know how they have to tackle these problems. We have been talking about talent, very important talent to achieve these solutions. You know, we have been talking also about how we can, we shouldn't be content with being sustainable, but try to use what tools, programs we have at our hand to improve our environment, or our regions, or societies around us. And also, I don't know if I've left something behind. I hope not. I think it's very interesting, the approach of convincing companies and startups the benefits of being themselves in their work, day-to-day work, to be sustainable, you know, using sustainable tools or technologies, like, as you said before, the CPDs with renewable energy. I would love to have more time to talk about some of the initiatives, well, all of the initiatives you are working at, but I'm afraid is not the case. So I think I'll put an end to this panel. Thank you very much to all of you. I've learned a lot. I hope the public also have found it interesting, and I have been up to the job for the job. I don't know. Hi, Christian.
Thank you so much, Patricia, and thank you to our wonderful panelists. This has been a very interesting discussion. So we appreciate the time and the efforts for making this session possible. Thank you so much to everyone. Luke, Ronnie, Jessica, Adrian, and yourself, Patricia. Thank you so much.
Thank you very
So
much.
to our esteemed audience, we still have one more session to go. And it is our closing session that will have a Blue Economy Solutions Showcase. And I want to let you know that this is coming up at 6 p.m. New York, 11 p.m. London, and 8 a.m. Sydney. And various different Blue Economy solutions. And the topic will be, how can Blue Economy help islands grow both economically and sustainably? And please look forward to this session. Don't miss it if you are able to join. I also want to invite you to join us at our in-person conference from June 22nd to 23rd in Madeira, Portugal, the Blue Economy Investment Forum. We will be gathering experts to explore the potential of sustainable ocean-based industries to drive economic growth while preserving the health of our planet. Please check the information in the chat or on our website, and I invite you to join us in person for that event. Also, please let us know your opinion by using the IFF 2023 hashtag on your social media posts and answer our survey that is being shared on the chat. Thank you so much, and see you in 1 hour for the next session.
Thank you.